Hello, everybody. I am one of your hosts, Scott, coming to you from what is still a blanket white Toronto.
And I'm Andy, coming to you from the United Kingdom, where today it is a sunny, clear blue sky day, and it's really nice. It's like spring until you open the door and step outside and go, bloody hell, it's still really cold.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. Good to see you, Andy. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're going to talk in February here this month. Our theme is going to be around delivering delivering a good digital experience. We're going to get into what we mean by that in this episode and talk a little bit more wholesomely, and then we'll get a little bit more tactical through the rest of the month. So definitely looking forward to those conversations. Andy, I think it's your turn to reflect for us. What story would you like to share today?
Well, yes, it is my turn, and fortunately, I have an experience from just this morning, which I will share with you and the listeners, of course. It was something. As soon as it happened, I thought to myself, "Oh, this is a good source of a story for the upcoming episode today." So I thought, well, I'll try and remember this, because I'm usually pretty terrible at remembering them in full. Take some notes or something like a day after, but you never quite capture it properly. So I've tried to do a better job today. I had been messaging with a company about arranging an ongoing event that we had, or an upcoming event that we had going, and it's part of an ongoing series of events, but this particular one coming up was going to be a lot bigger and a lot more complicated than any of the ones that we'd done before, and at a new location with new people involved. So it was a lot of extra and external factors involved. So what I had been trying to do was capture all of the documentation, all of the information, all of the timings, everything about this event, and I'd been communicating it on WhatsApp, and it had been somewhat difficult to get clear replies and get a clear conversation going, but because to me, WhatsApp is an excellent way of communicating with people, and I enjoy that, and I try to use it for many areas. To me, it made perfect sense that was the way I was going to do that. I got a phone call from the person who's running the overall events this morning, and he said to me, he said, "Look, Andy, I don't want to be rude, but I'm really struggling to follow this conversation. I'm struggling to do this. I've put together this email chain. I've put together all of this other stuff. Everybody's in the email chain. But you keep sending me all the information on WhatsApp, and I can't keep track of it and put it all together. Could you start using the email chain like everyone else is using? And could you do things in this other way?" And it made me realize that, just because it's easier for me to do things on WhatsApp doesn't mean that it's easier for everyone else.
Right.
It made me also aware that this person who was, project managing the events had also failed to communicate the preferred method of communication, and had also forgotten to include me in the email chain that he was expecting me to use to communicate with, and was wondering why I was using WhatsApp. So this story, the moral of the story, I'm not sure what it is, but essentially, if you are going to manage a big project, make sure that you are communicating with everybody in the same way. But also, my reflection on it was, despite the fact that, ultimately I hadn't been made aware that there was another way of communicating that was preferred for this project, that if you have a way of communicating that is preferred to you, it may not be the same way of communicating that the person you're talking to prefers.
Yeah.
So try and be a little bit flexible.
Yeah.
And one point on that, something that I find quite annoying, and I'm just going to add this in, is if you send someone a message, like if you send someone a written message, don't reply to them with a voice note.
Oh my God.
That's just weird.
Drives me nuts. I hate
good.
that.
It's not just me. Thank you. That was my story and my rant for the day. Thank you.
You can't look at your watch or wherever else, or the notification on phone. You got to unlock. You got to go to the app. You got to press play. You got to make sure you're in a place where you can hear it.
Yeah.
Hate those.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Back to your point though about communication styles and preferences and what works best for everybody. It's just reminding me of a similar experience that we've had at work, and we have a template for just our project kickoffs, and it seems a little funny sometimes because we do have sort of repeat engagements with existing clients, but I tell the team, do it anyway, just like make a joke of it. I'm like, but put it up on the screen and remind everybody, here's the tools we're going to use and how we're going to communicate. And the reason we do that now is because we've had the same problem in the past. So then it gives everybody a chance to say, oh my God, we have to use Microsoft Teams. Why can't you use Zoom like everybody else? Okay, well, fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, good reflection, good story, good reminder. Thank you. We said we were going to talk today about what it is that makes a good digital experience for your business, for your brand. We did a little bit of a preamble before hitting the record button. So, Andy, let me put you on the spot. And what is it that you hope our listeners will benefit from after listening to this conversation?
Well, to me, I felt that as we're going to be focusing on the digital side of things throughout the month of February, that we have a high level discussion at the beginning where we look at the overall experience. Mm-hmm. And this is in particular the customer experience that they have, the digital customer experience, mm-hmm. because no matter whether we're an in-person person or whether we're a pick up the phone person, there is an element of digital experience that is incredibly relevant to your customers and your business success. And I think both of us have very different experiences ourselves and expertise in this as well. And so I thought that it could be a really good way of sharing our own experiences with the audience, because I think we represent both sides of the same coin there. That we're both in business, we're both running businesses, we're both involved with working with other businesses and helping them to improve, but we do it from a very, very different platform and a different perspective. So I think it can be quite valuable to people who are in one camp or another, or maybe somewhere in between.
Yep. No, I think that's great. So I'm gonna sort of step into the conversation here by picking up on where you started with your statement there about sort of the focus on the customer experience here as part of what this topic is all about. I have some thoughts on that, which I'll get to. But what do you mean by customer experience? So let's sort of define our definition by digging deeper. What is it? What is a customer experience? And then maybe sort of the follow up, which I'll share already, is like, and what does that mean to make it good from a digital perspective? So just focus on the what is a customer experience part first.
Well, I think from my perspective, a customer experience is any interaction that you have with the customer. And when I say customer, this can also include prospects. So this is someone who's looking for the services that you're doing. And this is someone who is already receiving the services that you're doing. This is someone who is an existing customer of yours. And this is someone who is a new customer of yours. And this is someone who is a, prospective customer of yours, or an old customer of yours who wants to experience something that you're now doing that you were not doing before, or is thinking of coming back to you. There are many, many areas across that spectrum that you need to be speaking to those customers and give them a different experience, because, a prospect or an old customer who's looking to potentially come back are very different to someone who is already an existing customer to, receiving the service from one of your competitors. And also it's a different perspective and different experience that you need to give someone who is a new customer and who is an ongoing existing customer and who is a key client. Mm-hmm. And you can't forget any of them. You've got to make sure that everything is included in there and that you have a tailored digital solution for them.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. So I'm great answer. That is exactly the same sort of description that I would have provided. And I think what wanting to make sure we're pulling out of what we're saying here is what we mean by delivering a good digital experience means being really intentional about that entire customer life cycle and thinking about what you're doing quite intentionally at every stage in that life cycle, from prospect to advocate, right? So you want to attract them to your business, but then you've got to make sure that what you do and how we do one thing is how we do everything. That,
absolutely,
my favorite statements, right?
Yeah.
You need to make sure that you aren't just, it isn't just sizzle and no steak, to continue with pulling my cliches out of the that you don't just get them excited up front and then disappoint them when they come in because you put all your energy into a great front-facing website that's slick and engaging and compelling, and then the product or the delivery or your service or the rest of your brand just falls right down. Now, there's all kinds of ways that can fall down or not be executed quite as smoothly. So when it comes to the delivery and the execution of the digital experience, I think it's critical, especially so for some businesses who are digital businesses. They produce, they sell, they service purely in the digital medium. This is a little bit more like no kidding. I think it's a particularly good reminder when your product or service is then delivered offline. It's a physical good. It's a in-person service or something like that. But what are you doing to make sure that there is cohesion, consistency, fluidity across the board? Now, what I'm also not saying here is that everything has to be at this 110% level of digital efficacy. What I want people to think about is saying, like, don't over-index in one area if it's going to set an expectation that you cannot maintain in another area. So before you blow the budget on the best website, make sure that you've got some other systems, processes, resources thought through in other areas and aspects of your business that you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is absolutely key, is that you've got to have that roadmap for the customer, but also for your own business. That as a business owner, what that journey is that you're taking the customers on in their digital experience, and what it is that you're providing at each step of the way.
Right.
But also that the customers are clear where they are in that journey and what they're doing and what they should expect as well. Because, even if, and, you mentioned something there that you could be a physical in-person type business, but, even if you're at a concert and you're buying a t-shirt,
yes,
you use your telephone and you tap and buy on one of the many digital purchase things. Yeah. And then you should get a receipt, but then there should be some follow up on that. Not only, you've just bought that and here's your receipt. It's like, and did you know we also have an EP out? We have these other merch items that you can buy online and order to your home. It's not just about selling more products, but it's about providing additional value to those customers. That customer has just shown you that they are willing to spend their money with you. Why would you not capitalize on that and make the most of it?
I love that. And I think also what is being said there is, with every one of these touch points, you have an opportunity to do more than just execute a transaction.
Yeah.
Now, listen, we've all seen how sort of ridiculous this can become with daily text messages and promotions in my inbox. That's overkill. But absolutely, somebody just made a purchase. It might be a one-off, but keep them in your community. Let them opt out if they so choose. But it is so much easier to retain than to convert. And so I think if you do this properly, not only do you make sure that your experience from a customer's perspective is consistent, but it should absolutely make your revenue more robust.
I think also it's important that each department in a business has an input or an element of involvement in that digital experience, because something that we often forget is that we have we have a good front end, to attract customers in, and then once they come in, it all falls apart. We're not looking after them there, and there's no, it's not as glitzy and glamoury, or glamorous as it was when you came in. It's like going into these fancy hotels. Sometimes you go in, they've got a really lovely lobby, and the rest of the rooms are like not been updated since 1975 or something. And it's just, you want that consistent experience, don't you? You want to enjoy the same thing the whole way through. And so involving the customer service department and giving them the tools that they need and that they should have in order to provide a high level experience to the customers means that a customer who may potentially be upset about something will be given an opportunity to be made to feel happy again about the product and the service. Giving the tools and the services to the finance department means that the invoices are part of that clear narrative. It's like, this is just part of the process. It's not some standalone thing that's really complicated, and now you have to click about 45 buttons in order to actually give away your money to the company that you've agreed to pay services to.
Yeah.
I mean, Meta is a great example of that. They make it really difficult for you to spend money with them, and yet that's all they ever want you to do. They are spending all of their efforts. Everything they do is to encourage you to spend money with them, which is fair because they deliver a good service when you can actually get around to doing it. But they make it so difficult. They make it so complicated.
It's so complicated.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're talking about like the business portal.
But that in particular is very bad.
Yeah, it's you need, and that's why there are agencies that do just that. And they don't want that to change because they built a whole business model.
No, exactly.
It's very confusing and difficult to navigate. Yeah. And I was helping somebody do this the other day, and then I was stuck, and I was like going through the help docs, and the Facebook help docs were not updated to.
Well, if you could find them, if you can find them at all, and then
I found the step-by-step guide for like how I needed to set up like an ad account and link it to the analytics, and the steps were wrong because they had changed
they've changed the program.
And I was like, oh my God. Okay. We're just at time here, but let me try and put a little bit of some tactical advice around what we've just been saying. So I think, conceptually it all makes sense, but if you're thinking about this, what do you want to do? Right. So how do you, great. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Like we need to make sure we're consistent across the board. Thanks for the message. But what I'm asking everybody to do is sit down and start with one simple question. What do I need a digital experience for? And there's going to be all kinds of different reasons across the board, but I am talking about a single answer for the business as a whole. If you were to summarize it into one objective that you need your digital experience to deliver, what is it? Then you get into defining that journey. What are all the steps along the way that my customer is going to go through? And then do a little bit of a mental gap analysis. How am I doing here? How am I doing here? How am I doing here? Sit down, brainstorm, sketch it on a blank white sheet of paper, draw an arrow from one side to the next to show that progression, and put a few notes about how digital is being used to enable and advance those steps. Just because you have a gap in a certain area does not necessarily mean you need to close that gap, but at least you know where some of your weaknesses are, and you can set priorities based on where you think you're going to get the best return on the investment in improving that.
And just to follow up on that and linking it to the Meta example that you gave, is that this is not a static one-off, once and done thing. You can't just do the experience. Oh, we've done the experience, and now that's it. We'll move on as a business and carry on with our own stuff, because you end up in that situation like Meta where they've got a help desk that doesn't have the right information because they haven't updated the information. So stay up to date, keep looking at it, keep evolving it, and keep evolving it with the business and with your customer's business.
Absolutely. I think that's a pretty good summary of what we've discussed. Thanks, Andy. If you want to get in touch, learn more, send us some feedback, drop us a personal hello and let us know that you're out there. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us at tandtimbits.com. Let us know what you like about our digital experience. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks very much, Scott.